And we're live.
Hello and welcome back to another fortified and unnecessarily naked episode of the First Time Watchers podcast.
Because we like to watch. It's an awakening.
My name is Tim Costa.
I'm Romano de Silva.
This is Walter Vinci.
And if you'd like to send feedback, you can always email us at firsttimewatchers@gmail.com. Or, speaking of feedback, you can tweet us. We have some Twitter feedback from our Chung King Express episode. Cinema Recall said, "It's the only movie I can think of where it plays a song multiple times and I never get sick of it. I love this movie more than In the Mood for Love." Ooh, bold take. Yeah, I think I commented on that, how I surprisingly did not get sick of the Mamas and Papas song there. And then Jason C. replied, "I particularly enjoyed the bit where there was confusion about what language a song was in until it was realized that you'd watched different versions." Good job, Hermano.
No, only on this podcast.
Only on the... Well, I don't know. There's probably other... Do you think there's anybody less professional than us? Less prepared?
True Romance.
Oh, shit!
Shots fired!
Shots at the last possible minute. Damn, son.
Damn.
I was in the bushes like Oswald. That one.
Just sniped him. Yikes. Wow.
They never saw it coming.
Very good, Hermano. Very good. Anyways, moving on. In this episode, we continue our Second Time Watchers series to discuss a film from Wally's childhood, the 1985 movie Fortress. But before we get into that, it is time for Yay or Nay. This is the part of the show where we discuss what we have seen recently on our own. Hermano.
All right. You guys know that I like to watch my trash films.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the mood. I'd never seen this one. From 2012. House at the End of the Street.
Huh.
Oh, the
Starring-
Jennifer Lawrence one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I did not know this until just checking IMDb now, but she had a busy 2012. And if I had to bet my life on it, I would have said this came out before Winter's Bone.
You know what?
But
I would bet you that it was filmed before then.
possibly. But weirdly, according to release date, Winter's Bone came out in 2010, and this came out in 2012. And she had a...
like, we're getting toward like the height of Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Like, so... In 2012, she released 3 films: The Hunger Games, Silver Linings Playbook, and this. And I'm gonna go on a limb and say she probably wants to forget this one because this film is pretty terrible. It feels very, very low budget. I mean, the only other person really of note is Elizabeth Shue, who plays her mom, which is weird because I wouldn't have guessed that Elizabeth Shue was old enough to be her mom. But all right. I guess
Here we are.
she was older than I remembered.
Oh my gosh, what are you talking about? She was like Jennifer Lawrence's age back in the 80s during Karate Kid.
No, she was young in that. Wasn't she like 18 or something?
I'm pretty sure she was in her young 20s playing an 18-year-old.
Elizabeth Shue just kind of plays younger to me. So it just didn't look right. Even in this movie, it just didn't look like Elizabeth Shue was old enough to be her mom. Like, it's weird.
Fair enough. And by the way, you are correct. The producer had Jennifer Lawrence read for the role based on her performance in Winter's Bone. So, yes, this was filmed after Winter's Bone.
And crazy, because I thought she was excellent in Winter's Bone.
Sure.
And in this, it's like, I don't blame her. I think she's easily one of the best things about the movie. But I don't see what attracted her to this, considering she also had Hunger Games and, Silver Linings Playbook coming out the same year. It's just like a weird... It's not quite a career killer film, but it's pretty bad.
I think, like Wally said, it's right at the time where she's making a name for herself. She's just taking on roles and taking and reading.
She's taking everything. She was everywhere.
Anything. Yeah. So she didn't know how big the Hunger Games was going to be, and
well, the Hunger Games was a huge series of books, so I mean, she had to have known it had the potential to be big.
Sure. And
working with I forget the director's name now.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Silver Linings Playbook.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I forget too, but yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Anyway, but like the stars in that film, Bradley Cooper, Robert De Niro, like Chris Tucker, like it's insane. Like, and I don't know, but this one it's just a really generic horror film. It's, I don't know. I really don't have a ton to say about it. It's just very predictable. You can guess there's a kind of a twist that's very predictable. And it really just does nothing original or new. So no need to see this, guys. Just let me take that bullet for you and stay
See,
far
you
away
were
from this one.
literally just scrolling through HBO Max and just like, hey,
Yeah,
here.
I was like, you know what? I'm kind of in the mood for something I don't have to like
Yeah.
pay 100% attention to, but you know,
And based on what you said, it sounds like an hour and 41 minutes is stretching it.
it is. They definitely they padded on at the end almost as if like they're trying to like rescue it or something. Like the film's been so boring and bad up until that point, and then it's like they kind of add in this twist, and it's like, yeah, we know, buddy, we know this is where it was going. This is not, you know, blowing anyone's mind. So, yeah, just kind of a mild, not even a mild, big nay for that. And then I watched Family Movie Night, and I told you guys that I've been kind of struggling lately with picks. So I decided to throw one in. We had watched The Burbs, and the kids kind of liked it. So me and I were kind of waffling back and forth between Beetlejuice, which she suggested, and I suggested one that I liked a lot when I was a kid, The Three Amigos.
Oh, interesting.
And based on telling my oldest son what both were about, he selected The Three Amigos. So we saw that.
You know what? I've never seen this.
Oh, Tim. I think I was ahead of my time.
Consider that a list of shame movie, Tim.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
I think Three Amigos is one of the classic comedies.
Oh, this is peak like Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, Martin Short. Like this is pinnacle for them, in my opinion. But they're all at the top of their game. They are crushing in this film. All of them, combined are like just destroying this film as far as like their comedy, their performances. Even like the bad guy El Guapo is amazing as like this bad guy.
I have a plethora of presents.
I love when he calls him on it. He's like, "Do you know what the plethora is?"
No. Then why would you say that I do? Now you gotta watch this movie, Tim. It's so good.
It's good. It holds up. I mean, I think I was ahead of my time as a kid watching this because I laughed as a kid watching this, and I'm watching it now, like watching my son, and he was like stone faced. Like I was still chuckling and laughing at stuff, and he's just kind of watching it. And then I asked him at the end, like, what he thought of it. And he's like, it was a little boring. And I was like, no. I really thought he would get a kick out of this, and he just, I don't know, it just wasn't his thing. And again, like I'm saying, like I know it's old. It feels like an older film. The comedy is different. It's from a different. It's a totally generational thing. Like for me, this is what comedy was when I was a kid. For him, it's like he watches like all these crazy cartoons and like they're all like firing jokes, and it's constantly like movement and stuff. And this is a little bit more like, I wouldn't say cerebral is the right word, but like it's just a different type of comedy that he's not really accustomed to, and I don't blame him. And to be fair, it's not really a kid's film per se, so I still enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's kind of problematic, I guess, if you put it in today's crosshairs with these three white guys going into Mexico and rescuing a small town. But I can put that all aside because I think it is all in kind of jest and kind of good fun. So big yay for Three Amigos.
Fair enough. A couple of things for me. First up, as part of my monthly movie club, I was assigned a film from 1996 directed by Olivier Assayas called Irma Vep, which people may know that it was recently readapted into I believe a TV series this year. Pretty sure Alicia Vikander stars in it. But this one from 1996 stars Maggie Cheung, interestingly enough, who I just watched in The Mood for Love. And it's about a Hong Kong actress, Maggie Cheung, playing herself, a fictional version of herself, is cast in France to star in a remake of Les Vampires from 1915, but petty intrigues and clashing egos plague the production. Interestingly enough, this movie reminded me of a movie from the 90s starring Steve Buscemi called Living in Oblivion. And because it's about the filmmaking process, is about you're watching in this movie Irma Vep a movie being filmed, or at least parts of it. and the people involved in their relationships. So, yeah, but I'm not really sure what to take out of this movie because, but I can see why this director would be interested in this material, especially after seeing a movie like Personal Shopper and Clouds of Sils Maria, where he delves into the ideas of like blurring the lines between reality and fiction, like and artifice and authenticity. And this is particularly highlighted at the end when he blatantly references the end of Ingmar Bergman's Persona, if you guys recall how that movie ended, and even the themes within that film. So, and the way this is shot, it's very cinema verite, and it helps get the message across. But and there were moments I enjoyed, but overall I was left a little confounded. I wasn't really sure what to make of this movie. But Maggie Chung is good, as she usually is. So apparently it's very well regarded, and a lot of other people have rated this pretty highly. So, and then yes, I went out to the theater. I went out to the theater to go see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And it's a great capper to this trilogy, guys. It features just more unique characters, and it's just a great I would say standalone entry in the greater MCU. It does reference prior events, but only what happened to these characters essentially. It doesn't tie into anything else. Even the villain, High Evolutionary, is has a motivation that's only central to the story here and nothing greater. And you guys have probably heard how this movie centers on Rocket's history, or tragic history, that is. And this movie is, and those scenes are as emotional as you'd imagine, and really round out his character, and rightly made his mark as one of the more interesting in the series. I will say, I was at the beginning of this movie, I was left a little removed from elements of it because it felt like there were stand-ins for the characters. Like all the actors weren't exactly themselves, because prior to this I had rewatched the first two as well as Infinity War and Endgame, just to get a flavor of everything going into Volume 3, and it was just a weird disconnect, that for some reason it didn't feel like the same actors. Maybe it was the length of time between, when they were able to film this movie, and when they had intended to, and I don't know. But as the movie got along, it felt like they fell into their roles a lot better. Maybe it's a me thing, I don't know. But there's a lot of weird stuff in this, very, strange outfits, locales, and creatures, kind of reminded me of like 70s and 80s sci-fi features. There's some pretty gnarly effects that, I think I was telling Hermano before the recording here, reminded me of, elements of something like Raiders of the Lost Ark or Temple of Doom in terms of, pushing the rating at least. I don't know, like the PG-13 is definitely there, for a reason, especially with this movie. So I would be cautious about bringing younger kids who might be scarred by certain elements. But it's pretty cool to see, little, like we've seen little flashes of characters appear in the previous installments, and they have slightly bigger roles in this movie. Like Cosmo, the dog, has a bigger role in this movie, where you just saw him very briefly in a couple instances previously. So that was fun, and then just where they take the characters and their journeys is really interesting. So if you like the other Guardians of the Galaxy movies, you'll probably like this one a lot too. So that's a yay for Volume 3.
Deep inside of me, girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's alright.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Do I even want to ask what is unfortunate?
It's just that with 11 episodes to go, it would have been awesome to have done this recording on the 11th.
Is this going to be a whole number 23 thing all over again?
Oh, Christ, I hope not.
Not this time.
Oh, no.
Not this time. Is 11 letters.
Here we go again.
But you know what show never has to deal with this bullshit?
The In Session Film Podcast.
That's right, Hermano. The In Session Film Podcast is JD and Brendan.
Hey, did this part of the promo get backwards again?
Huh. Anyways, each week the In Session Film Podcast chooses a movie to review.
Then creates a top 3 list based on what they just saw.
This week, the In Session Film Podcast is reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
And then discuss each of their updated MCU rankings. Barf.
You can find the show at Apple Podcasts by searching for, you guessed it, the In Session Film Podcast.
Or on the web at InSessionFilm.com.
So if you're in the mood for great movie reviews and discussion,
Then check out the In Session Film Podcast on Apple Podcasts.
or on the web at InSessionFilm.com.
Wait, where did all these Post-it notes come from?
And what's up with the yarn everywhere?
It's all connected, guys. It all makes sense.
Well, maybe to you.
That you're in love with me. Lips as sweet as candy. Its taste is on my mind. Girl, you got me thirsty for another cup of wine. Got a bug from you, girl, but I don't need.
This is a second time watchers episode, so it's time to play a game we like to call
Movie Battle Royale.
This is where we use flickchart.com to create our collective top 10 list of all time. We pit the 5 pairings of movies and decide which one is better with each battle. Are we ready?
Let them fight.
First up, American History X versus the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
American History X.
I feel like I'm going to be the lone dissenter here because we had recently watched, or rewatched, I guess, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it didn't go over so well for you two.
No, it did not.
Went over well for me. I think Hermano's gonna curb stomp me.
I would not do such a thing, Tim. It is hard to kind of separate the legend of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and its kind of importance to the horror genre from it. And helping me make my decision here, because it's like I do like American History X. It's kind of like Requiem for a Dream for me, though. It's not a film I often revisit because it's just not a very rewatchable film.
No.
But still, as a film, I think I am going to go American History X.
Yeah, fair enough. I get it. Next up, Elizabeth Shue, The Karate Kid, 1984 versus The Boondock Saints.
Oh, that's a tough one for me.
No, it's not. Come on.
Yes, it is.
Wally loves Boondock Saints.
Ugh.
I do love the Boondock Saints. I guess I'll have to go with The Karate Kid. It is more the influential movie.
I will also go The Karate Kid.
Yay.
I've waffled back and forth between showing my son this because he's seen the Jaden Smith one and he liked it. And I think the age that he's at now, that one's an easier sell. Where now I have to try to sell Ralph Macchio as a high schooler in that film, and I'm not sure it's going to be as easily digestible.
Okay, so next up, what the hell is going on here? Jim Carrey's 1994 vehicle, The Mask, versus Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You should just skip these, Tim. Why even bother asking us?
So we can't discount the genius that is Jim Carrey.
Okay, and
just how much of a societal zeitgeist the Mask movie is.
Societal zeitgeist? I mean, look, he had
I am completely being facetious. I'm obviously going to go with 2001.
Yeah, I know you. I thought you were trying just to make an argument for Jim Carrey himself and his influence, but
No, I was trying to make it so like I was going to side with the Mask.
Hermano, you mentioned Beetlejuice earlier. 1988's Beetlejuice versus Martin Scorsese's Casino.
Ooh.
This is interesting. You know, underrated, I would say, right? Because it comes on the heels of Goodfellas and follows a similar template, but still very good on its own. A great Sharon Stone performance. A great everybody's in this is great, right?
Yeah.
Don Rickles.
As a bad guy.
Yeah, as a heavy. Yeah.
Well, as a heavy, yeah, not really a bad guy. As a heavy.
Yeah.
Mr. Potato Head himself.
Yikes. This is tough. This is tough. Anybody leaning anyway?
I keep going back and forth between the two, but I gotta be decisive here, and I'm gonna say
You know, if we're talking definitive movies of respective careers, you know, he already had it in Goodfellas, and this is it. This is Tim Burton in a nutshell. You know.
Oh yeah, and like I can hear the boom 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 boom
Right.
boom boom. You know, his pairing with
Danny Elfman.
Yeah,
and
I'm gonna have to go with Beetlejuice because like you're right. I mean, Casino is you cannot fault Martin Scorsese's filmmaking. I think he makes art.
Mm-hmm.
But Tim Burton also makes movies that are fun.
There's degrees of fun in Scorsese's movies, depending on how you look at it.
My favorite scene in the movie is when Joe Pesci's yelling at the guy with his head in the vice about who he's protecting. that scene never ceases to crack me up, just because of how mad he is about it.
I have to lean Beetlejuice. I think
I'm going with Beetlejuice on this one.
Hermano, you're the same.
I got nothing to say.
Well, you
Me
can't
as a
make the
huge fan of
decision.
this movie. I was hoping you guys both picked Beetlejuice.
You
so
can't make.
abstain.
You have to choose. No, you have to choose. Everybody chooses.
No,
Do it.
I have
I mean,
laryngitis too. I'm losing my voice.
I'm also going to add that Gina Davis has been my cinema crush for quite some time.
Very nice.
And boy, is she adorable looking in this movie.
And then only a few years later, she kicks ass in A Long Kiss Goodnight. Hermano, you went Beetlejuice. Good job. Finally, oh Jesus, talk about underwhelming sequels. Ocean's 12 versus Spider-Man 3.
Is Ocean's 12 the one where they make the dumb joke about
Julia Roberts?
Yes.
Julia Roberts looking like Julia Roberts?
Yes.
Yes. Everyone's least favorite scene in all of the Ocean's 12.
I'm going with Spider-Man 3. You know why? Because at least there was something interesting about Spider-Man 3.
Wait, both these films have something in common. They both have hated scenes.
Oh my, yeah, emo Peter Parker.
Emo Tobey Maguire.
I really, a few years ago, I had revisited Spider-Man 3, and I really wanted to like it. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it.
Like, I love how they came up with the idea to like make the Sandman the thing, and then like the scene with him on the beach is awesome. Dancing Toby.
Oh yeah.
It makes sense when you think about it after a while. I wanted better Venom.
Hermano, make a choice.
I mean, this is a tough one because I don't hate Ocean's 12 as much as a lot of people seem to. I think there's a lot of good aspects to it. I like Vincent Cassel in it a lot.
Oh, but his character is terrible, and then the whole acrobatic through lasers and shit like that. Oh my god!
I love that scene. That scene is so funny to me.
No,
like,
I remember hating
insane.
it.
But I mean, I don't know. I think people forget these movies are kind of slapsticky. Like, they're not really like hard-boiled, heist movies or anything. So they're all got this level of silliness. So I think all those things fit within it, except the Julia Roberts thing. Even I can't get on board with that because that's ridiculous. But that's where I think they crossed that line that there was no turning back after that. But I'm gonna go Spider-Man 3. Sam Raimi can do no wrong.
I just feel that that Ocean movie is like so forgettable. I can't even remember what they were trying to steal.
An egg.
Yeah,
Fabergé egg.
Fabergé egg. That's right.
Yeah, you turn me on. Hooked on a feeling. I'm high on believing that you're in love with me. All the good love when we're all alone. Keep it up. Do you like
Movie podcast hosted by inebriated people. That's Kai with the cracking voice and Heather's touched by evil. One thinks he's Spider-Man, the other is a ninja. It's the Man I Love Film podcast. It's the Milkcast.
Hey everybody, I'm Kai.
And I'm Heather.
And we are the hosts of MILFcast, the Man I Love Films podcast, the unofficial official podcast of ManILoveFilms.com. This is the podcast where we like to talk about what we've been watching, talk about movies, but mainly we just like to drink, be silly, and play a whole bunch of games. So we think every other week you should grab a drink, snuggle up, and let us make sweet love to your ears.
Otherwise, we'll make sweet love to your couch.
So come and find us on iTunes. Just search for MILFcast.
Hooked on a feeling, I'm high on believing that you're in love with me.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
That you're in love with me. I said I'm hooked on a feeling, and I'm high on believing.
Okay, let's talk about Fortress.
At a one-room schoolhouse in the Australian Outback on a not quite ordinary day, 9 children and a teacher began to learn the lesson they would remember the rest of their lives.
They're going on a picnic.
A teacher and 9 children stalked by terror.
You know how to catch a rabbit? No, sir. See, rabbits can't look straight ahead. So you come up and in from his blind spot, which is head on.
We've got to fight them! We outnumber them 4-1!
Can the tools of childhood be forged into weapons? Can courage build a fortress? Fortress, a lesson in survival.
The plot. After being kidnapped for ransom by 4 criminals, a school teacher and her students flee into a cave and build fortifications in anticipation of a decisive battle with their captors. The director, Arch Nicholson. The actors, Sean Garlick, Rachel Ward, Elaine Cusick, and other children and youngins. Wally, before we get into it, why don't you remind us why you chose this movie as your second-time watcher's pick?
So this is the last of our second-time watchers?
Yeah, we're gonna get into that. Yeah,
and this movie I've been really hoping that we'd be able to review at some point, because I think Hermano's the only other person that's ever seen it, and I think that some people have never heard of this movie. This is a core childhood movie for me, core memory, core building blocks.
How did you come across this movie to begin with?
So this movie was specifically made for HBO. It was an Australian theatrical release, but made for HBO cable networks. And so on one of those weeks where you get that free little sampling of HBO, it came on, and I watched this movie and it was I was like, wow, I've never seen anything like this before. Because at the time I'm probably, I'm a kid at this point, and so most of the times you see like kid movies, they've got a like it's like a Home Alone thing where like they're it's using like rakes, like little toy cars to get the guys to slip and fall, and the paint bucket and all that. And this was not like that. And there was just something that just echoed with me. And the hardest part about picking this movie for a second time watch is the fact that up until recently we couldn't find it anywhere. It turns out it's on the Internet Archive. You can find it there. And once we've discovered that we could all see it, I was beside myself with joy. So this is a core movie for me from my childhood.
Hermano, what is your history with this film, and what was this watch like for you?
I don't remember the exact history of it. I do remember having it recorded on a VHS tape. So I think the only time I would ever do that is if I had already seen it prior and then liked it so much I recorded it the next time I saw that it was going to be playing somewhere. So I don't know if it was rented. It's possible it was rented for me, but like Wally's saying, I think it was kind of a movie that wasn't well known. I probably saw it on TV at one point and then caught it again and just decided to record it is probably the most likely way I saw it. I also had kind of this core memory thing to this film because I mean it came out in '85, so the oldest I would have been is like 9 when I saw this possibly. So I don't think I was quite that young, but it probably wasn't much older, maybe 10 or 11 tops. And it just felt kind of like an unexpected movie to me because I just did not, I'd not to that point seen movies where kids were put in this type of danger, really. A lot of the kids movies you're watching, obviously, like there's always this perceived threat, but nothing's ever really going to happen to the kids. Where in this one, there's a lot of, threats, perceived threats. A kid actually gets shot in this, and I had kind of a different recollection of the film. For whatever reason, because it's been so long since I've seen it, I probably haven't seen it since the 80s. For whatever reason, I recalled it kind of being more in the wilderness, like they were kind of on the run in the woods, and they would have to periodically take out one of the bad guys and so on and so forth. So it was interesting to watch it again and be like, oh wow, I totally did not remember this exactly accurately, but I did remember the way it ends, because that, I think, to me is the scene that really stuck with me all these years. I just remember the violence involved in that end, and then like that kind of epilogue type scene towards the end of the film really was like wow, I'm surprised there's not like a bunch of sequels to this, because I felt like they could have gone a little bit further with what becomes of all these kids and this teacher, because it does have sort of a Lord of the Flies feel to it. If Lord of the Flies also had an adult around and were being chased by other adults. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how Tim's gonna feel, but I feel like he's been kind of hard on some of these second time watches. I think specifically for me, not me, I don't know how Wally feels about like Tim's opinions of his second time watch stuff, but this is exactly what I feel like is a perfect second time watch film, because I have literally have
blush.
It's like I have literally not seen this since the 80s. This is only my third time seeing it, and aside from it having sort of a kind of movie of the week type feel to it, I think subject matter wise and all in the story and all that stuff, I think really holds up. And I feel like this is one of those films that I think Tim would usually say is perfect to be remade at maybe a little bit of a higher quality.
Oh yeah.
But overall, I really enjoyed watching it again.
Interesting. I had never heard of this movie before. Never heard of it. And I was just like kind of dumbfounded when you had brought it up. And I'm like, I have no idea what this movie is. So this was a first time watch for me. This movie is incredible. It's incredible. I was just floored at how this grade school teacher happens to acquire survivalist skills as this film goes along, how she grooms young children to be bloodthirsty killers and followers of her new cult that will protect her at all costs. This movie was an amazing experience. There were so many instances where I was like, what is happening? This is amazing. Like, the way these children so effortlessly turn from whiny crybabies to willing participants of murder and dismemberment is fascinating. It's fascinating. It's all because they witnessed the only adult that they truly look up to become a victim of harassment and her own overwhelming emotions, that they band together and defend her. I was just like on the floor in amazement as this movie progressed, especially by the ending. Holy shit, the ending, guys. But yeah, no, if I had seen this when I was a kid, I probably would have had very similar impressions that you had. I probably would have had images in my mind linger, that would have heightened over the years and become more exaggerated than what they really were, or something like that. Yeah, when this movie started, I was a little taken aback at like you said, Hermano, the production quality of it, was a little lacking, and then, there's some pretty bad dubbing or ADR work. but that I was able to overlook that pretty quickly as just how ridiculous moments of this movie is and heightened, and it's because there's a tone in this movie that's it's a fine line, and it's very hard to describe the type of tone that you can get in a movie that this attains, and you're able to buy in. You're able to overlook any other kind of flaws or whatever. I'm just thinking to myself, like, why the hell does she have to take off all her clothes, in order to go underwater? What is the point of that? There is no other point other than to have this kid, this student Sid, come of age, as she's undressing. It's only a moment for this character, and I'm like, amazing. Yeah, I had a blast with this movie. I had a blast with it. Wally, what was this revisit like for you?
I had a smile on my face the entire time, because I was going back to my childhood and watching one of my favorite movies as a kid. Though now that I am grown, I do look at it a little bit differently in terms of how it's all put together. I mean, the part that you're referencing where she disrobes to get into the water is, you don't know how cold that water actually is. You need something to fend off hypothermia if you're going to be stuck in a cave. So that makes sense. And I don't know why she would take the oldest boy with her, because that seems like a weird choice. But also too, like, if anything goes wrong, he can go back and protect, take care of the other kids. He can actually do something. But Hermana's also right. This movie is also, and it is being remade actually. It's being called. There's a remake in the works called The Fortunate. So I don't know what they're going to change in this, but yeah, this movie is ripe for remaking because it does have that made for TV look about it, and the acting is, it's not Oscar worthy.
Look, there's I talk about the tone, and I'm not sure how you can remake this movie in light of today's gun culture climate, in light of any kind of harm to children, potential threat to children, school children like this. I don't know how you can balance a movie of that features the elements in this in today's climate. You have to change aspects of it. The kids would have to be older, and maybe not even kids. They would probably have to be campers or something like that, or just children of wealthy people, not at school, maybe in college, who knows what it is, on vacation. But to me, I'm not sure how well it would play in today's environment.
I think it can. It's just you just have to. You would need somebody with a deft hand, because they did try this at one point with Run, Hide, Fight recently.
Okay.
And I think that
wasn't that a Daily Caller production?
I forget who made it.
But I think it was a right-wing production with
it was, and that's the thing, is that anything I think that I haven't seen the movie myself, but I know that was like a big deal about it, was the fact that they were using like the school shooting thing as like a vehicle for the good guy with the gun.
Right, yeah.
I don't even think it even hit theaters around here, because I don't recall seeing anything for it in these parts. But point being, you would need a defter hand than that. And I think you could do it. And the other thing too is, like, you have a society like in Australia where they've banned firearms across the board. So
yeah, we even watched a movie for based on that, Nitram.
Yeah. Which is why they that was the onus behind that.
Right.
So You would need a skilled writer and a skilled director to be able to navigate this kind of story. And I think it can be done. You just got to find the right person to do it.
Hermano, let me ask you something. What the hell were the kidnappers' plans?
Just ransom. I mean, it's actually loosely based on a true story.
Yeah.
Of an actual, I don't know if it was a school bus of kids or.
It was the Faraday School kidnapping in Australia, where 2 men kidnapped 7 students. They were caught, convicted, and sent to prison. One of them escaped, did it again with 9 students, was caught, arrested, and then murdered a rapist in the prison, and then did his time and got out.
Interesting.
Wow. Interesting life. But just to not get away too fast from the remake ability of this, I think the first thing you got to do is not set it in America. Just keep it in a foreign country where it's not quite as common as it is here. And maybe there might be enough separation there where, it's not instantly not appealing to people. Not that subject matter ever would be really, but
right.
And I have a director that I feel like hasn't done something in a while, but would be perfect for this because he's already kind of done 2 films that are, at least one film in particular that's not that far removed from this. Jeremy Saulnier.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Green Room is kind of in the vein of a film like this.
Mm-hmm.
He's done Blue Ruin. Do it on kind of a smaller budget. This film doesn't require like a massive budget, maybe like 20-30 million tops.
Yeah.
And they were able to do a lot with a little in this film because, I mean, Australia. I've always been a fan of Australian films. I feel like there's always this like hard edge to the films I've enjoyed out of Australia where it almost seems like they don't give a fuck. And the Loved Ones I really liked. I love Wolf Creek. I love, a lot of these Australian films I see, and it just feels like there's something about them. I don't know if it's just, I don't know, I can't put it any way better than say there's a hard edge to them. There's a scene in this film where the adult actor comes out holding a kid by one hand, and he's basically manhandling this kid for real.
Right.
And he's and we haven't even touched on the idea that this schoolhouse ranges from kindergarten to high schoolers.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know how the hell school works in fucking Australia, but that is weird.
It's the Outback, man.
Range.
Yeah, and I'm sure you would have seen stuff like that, even in America or other countries in small towns, small remote towns.
It's just how do you even plan a school day around the stuff that you would be teaching a kindergartner versus what you have to teach a high schooler?
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean? It's it's just such a separation. It's how do you even manage this?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all the things you were talking about, Tim, it feels natural too in a way. It doesn't feel forced or anything doesn't seem plausible. The kid is already established in the beginning as being, adept with a gun. He seems just based on the fact that they all live in Australia, they all have some level of survival skill.
No. You have me wrong. There are elements of this movie that are very implausible.
Like what?
Well, I mean, all those kids being able to hold their breath underwater for that amount of time.
It wasn't that far of a swim. They maybe had to hold their breath max 10 seconds.
That's a long time.
10 seconds?
That's a long time underwater while swimming and exerting yourself. Absolutely.
I don't know, man. Do all these kids have emphysema?
And I think you're underestimating the amount of time and the exertion. Also, the fact that they all turn into bloodthirsty killers. Look, somebody is going to say, "Look, I don't like what's happening here. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a part of this."
These are Australian kids. They're hardened, man. These kids are 3 years away from being in prison. Most of them, so I mean, they're hard, man. I just imagine the kids in Australia would fuck up American kids.
Oh yeah,
9 out of 10 times.
100%.
Without a doubt, because they're shooting fucking foxes to start their morning. You know what I mean? It's come on, dude.
Man, can't let those foxes in the chicken coop.
Yeah,
exactly. But it's still, my son's watching cartoons in the morning. This kid's out stalking a fox that's fucking killing chickens.
And back to the kidnappers. Look, it doesn't even matter what their plans are because their base male predatory behaviors just take over, and all they want to do is have their way with the teacher, and then maybe one of the kids.
Yeah, it's that stuff is what I'm talking about with Australian films. You don't see that in films here, dealing with like high school age girls and, you know, adults, you know, threatening to basically rape the two of the women.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like groping the teacher at one point.
Yeah.
And you know, it does get to a point where, like, I mean, they only say it basically in one line. It's almost like a throwaway line, like we're gonna get a big ransom out of this or something. You know, that's their whole plan basically. But then you don't really know how they intend on making this all come to fruition. Basically, it's like we're gonna hold them in a cave and
then
ask
what?
for money. There's no proof.
Right.
We have the kids, like nothing.
Right.
It's like, I mean, again, these aren't exactly like, you know, masterminds here, but I think a lot of the other stuff is plausible. Like, you know, them making spears, setting up little traps. Like, none of that stuff seems like crazy to me. Like, there's nothing, you know, they're not doing anything like, you know, creating like some crazy Rube Goldberg devices. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
that,
I mean, no. They create these traps, these Rambo like spears, you know, that come that, you know, from the trees, you know, that I'm like, what?
I mean, that's not like impossible. Like, all they have to do is do a tripwire.
Yeah.
And hang the thing from up above.
That seems pretty advanced for people who don't have experience doing this.
I mean, the teacher could have came up with that.
But the teacher knows about like the old Aboriginal hunting ways.
Okay, good. But
yeah,
in, you know, making that come to fruition, good for them. Good for them, I guess.
I'm just saying that I was able to make really good spears as a kid after watching this movie.
Yeah, good influence here on young Walter. We need to talk about this ending here.
Love it.
With the not just the okay. There's like two endings that we need to get to. You know, where the final guy, you know, comes in and they just go berserk on him. Like the you talk about Lord of the Flies. This is exactly the moment right here where everybody just goes willy-nilly on him.
Yeah, I mean, I that's the one scene that stuck out to me always, because I felt it was so shocking to see that as a kid, because I'm thinking like, all right, the teacher's going to be the only one that really goes in, but the kids are like fucking bloodthirsty all of a sudden. They're just like, yeah, fuck this guy, like hitting him with axes, spears, like, and afterwards, like what the cops insinuate happened ultimately, even after that, like they dismembered him.
Right.
They cut out his heart.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The last shot of this film, am I supposed to take away that they cut out his heart?
Yes.
What the fuck?
And now they keep it in a jar as a fucking trophy
what
in the classroom.
The fuck?
Yep.
Yeah. That shit's hardcore, man. Australia, man. What the fuck?
Holy shit. That ending. Okay. And they all just like... all the kids just slowly circle the cops, you know, to protect their teacher. And I'm like, come on.
Dude, serious Lord of the Flies vibes, man, right there. Like, it's just, they all band together. It's like they, like you were saying, cult, but I mean, it was more of like, you know, snitches get stitches to me. Like, it was just like, everyone keep their mouth shut, or you know what's going to happen.
So, yeah. And are there any final thoughts before we get into this grades?
I'm just saying that these kids have been under all this stress this entire time. They were bound to snap.
Yeah, even the kindergarten age is just like, I'll check a stone.
That's what I just want to be included.
I thought the masks were still sufficiently creepy.
Yeah, no, they are.
The guy with the duck mask, man, was really throwing me off.
You mean Vernon Wells?
Vernon Wells?
Yep.
Am I supposed to know who that is?
He's been in a bunch of other movies outside of this.
Oh, okay.
Including what will be my recommendation.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with him, but I mean,
he's in The Road Warrior. He's in Inner Space. He's in Weird Science. He's in Commando.
Wow.
Yep.
And does he ever show his face? No, right? The only people you see the face of the Santa Claus or Father Christmas and the cat. No, not the cat. The what's the other one?
I think he does. I think he's running through the woods and he gets like. Or is he the one that gets shot? I forget.
I thought he was the one that gets decapitated. Was that not him?
Oh, the dude that falls into the spear pit and then he just slowly sinks in? Oh, man.
Yes.
That definitely would leave an impression on a kid. Absolutely.
Oh, and there's like that quick burst of violence. Like the very first time someone actually gets killed, the old man.
Right.
the
Oh,
house.
yes.
Yeah, the shotgun blast. Like I remember being like, "Whoa!" Because I mean, up to that point, it feels like, hey, this is kind of a hard film. It's kind of you're seeing kids get kidnapped and stuff, but up until that point, it's really what kicks everything off.
Did you notice after the guy gets shot, the fish tank is blown apart, and then one of the girls tries to go down and rescue all the fish?
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, in all the commotion, one of the girls, I think the girl, the girl that tries to escape, and busts her knee or whatever. Like what was her point? What did she think she was gonna do? I didn't understand.
I think the fear just took over because she was right before that. She takes off, like she's telling the teacher, like she's terrified, like that they're not gonna be able to pull this off or get out of this alive. And I think she maybe makes a run for it. That's all I think I could take away from that, because it is weird that they're making this united front and she decides to take off.
Yeah. All right, let's get into grades. You know what? I'll go first. As a kid, I probably would have given this an A, and as an adult, I'm giving this an A fuck plus. This is a fantastic experience, and good job, Walter. Wally, what grade as a kid and as an adult?
As a kid, this is an A plus movie for me. I watched this movie every chance that I got. As an adult, I think it's closer to a B, B plus movie.
Fair enough, Hermano.
It's weird. I feel like I only saw this twice when I was a kid, because I did recall enjoying it, and I don't know why I didn't see it more. Maybe I couldn't sneak it past my parents after a while. But as a kid, I would have given it an A. And as an adult, I give it that same A.
Good job. So this was our final second time watchers. Well, I mean, until we get to episode 500, which is like the ultimate second time watch. But in terms of the ethos of second time watchers, which I remember developing back in the day when I was still working with Hermano. Hermano, you came to my desk one day, and we were talking about movies, and we were talking about the show, and I think you must have brought up that we need to incorporate a way to watch movies that we liked as kids, and then somehow rewatch them. And I'm pretty sure we developed the term second time watchers then and there.
Yeah, I mean, this film it perfectly encapsulates, like I was saying, like what I wanted to do with second time watchers is like this film that you just remembered liking as a kid, maybe hadn't seen it since you were a kid, and then rewatch it as an adult. You may have like a vague memory of it. Like with this film is, again, perfect example of that, where I kind of had parts of it wrong, parts of it correct. The ending really stuck with me. I remember that, vividly. But a lot of times, like, kids, films that you liked as a kid, like Indiana Jones or Back to the Future, you've watched those a ton. How you feel about those. Yeah. I was looking for more like films like this, like films you remember liking, but whatever happened? Why didn't you go back and watch those a million times like you did, Indiana Jones and stuff like that? So, yeah, I really had a lot of fun revisiting a lot of these films.
What about you, Wally? Any thoughts on our second time watchers run?
I've had a ball with every single one of them. Some of the ones, I think there's been a small percentage of ones I've just never seen before.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's been fun taking these trips down memory lane and going, oh yeah, I remember that happened. I forgot that happened in this movie. And then having to kind of look at it again and go, all right, I got to take my nostalgia glasses off and look at this. Like, all right, how is this put together as a film? Like, if I were to watch this, never having seen this before, would I still like it? Would it still be good?
Yeah.
And that's I think is the hardest part is like separating yourself from what you remember versus what it actually is.
It can absolutely be difficult sometimes, creating that separation. And I think this was a fantastic idea. However long ago we came up with it, however long ago Hermano got tired of watching films for the first time and wanted to find a way to revisit films, and we made it work for the show. And it was a lot of fun. And I think I even remember it was like last year. I think I was debating whether or not to watch, like you said, a movie that I've seen a ton of times versus a movie that I hadn't seen since I saw in the theaters, and we put it up for a vote, the Wrath of Khan or Batteries Not Included, and sure enough, I think it was better that we actually went with Batteries Not Included, even though it's not as good of a movie, because it's just something that I had a vague recollection of, and I needed to see how well my adult eyes took to it. But other than that, yeah, this was a lot of fun. So that does it for this episode of the First Time Watchers podcast. You can still donate to us on patreon.com/firsttimewatchers, and you can still buy stuff at zazzle.com/firsttimewatchers.
And you can talk to us on Twitter at 1STTimeWatchers on Twitter.
Or write to us at our email, firsttimewatchers@gmail.com.
Please download our episodes on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. Please leave a review. Let us know you left a review because we love feedback. If you have any suggestions of movies for us to watch, send a tweet or an email. Speaking of suggestions, let's recommend a movie. Wally.
All right, so Vernon Wells is in Fortress as the Duck, and he's also in another movie directed by Stuart Gordon from 1992, also called Fortress. In a future private underground prison, the inmates are computer controlled with CCTV, dream readers, and devices that can cause pain or death. John and his illegally pregnant wife are inside, but want to escape before birth. This also has Kurtwood Smith as like the villain, and Christopher Lambert as the hero. This movie is like low budget, cheap sci-fi, but it is also pretty good and definitely worth a watch.
I will go back to episode 220, which was a Second Time Watchers pick of mine, when we talked about the 1991 movie Toy Soldiers. And starring Sean Astin and Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton, yes.
Will Wheaton.
Absolutely. This movie is about a group of troublemaking boys decide to take a stand when terrorists seize control of their boarding school. This is the best Die Hard ripoff you could ever imagine. And it's a perfect time portal to 1991. And 13-year-old self thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and so did adult self. And it certainly left an impression, and he wanted to talk about a fortress, essentially. The school is a fortress, and they do take a stand, all right. And I love how Sean Astin crawls through the vents, just like John McClane did. It was great. Toy Soldiers, watch it. Hermano?
All right, I already mentioned mine in my love for Australian films. We reviewed this back in the day. I think I liked it the most out of all of us. From 2009, The Loved Ones. When Brent turns down his classmate Lola's invitation to the prom, she concocts a wildly violent plan for revenge. Do you guys remember your feelings on this? I remember, Tim, I feel like you didn't like it much.
Yeah, I thought it was okay, I think.
Oh, okay. Wally, do you remember what you felt about it?
What was it again? The
Loved Ones.
Oh, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it thoroughly, actually.
Yeah, I dug it a lot. It's really psychotic. There are some scenes of torture in it, so it's going to be a tough sell for some people that might dismiss it as torture porn, but I think it's more than that for me personally. Again, not a very long movie. It definitely doesn't overstay its welcome. It does what it needs to do, and I really enjoyed it and look forward to revisiting it at some point. So yeah, from 2009, The Loved Ones.
That was going to be my initial pick until I saw that Vernon Wells was also in the other Fortress. I went, nah, I got to keep it thematic.
All right, stay tuned for our next episode. We'll be finishing off our decade-by-decade film series by discussing the 2016 Roger Ebert documentary, Life Itself.
That's the First Time Watchers podcast because we like to watch.
Will come and save me. These walls are breaking.
Celtics are bums. Lazy bums. Good for nothing.
Did you watch the whole
bums.
game?
Yeah, I turned it off at like 7 minutes to go or something like that.
You just knew, or was it already too late by then?
Oh, it was way too late by then. Yeah, they were consistently down in the teens, and they were just never coming back. It was awful.
At home too. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is like I was listening to the radio, and like there's still like sportscasters and stuff that think that they're still gonna win the next two.
I mean,
And
look,
like the way they've been playing, I don't know, man.
look, Philly is a weird team too, and anything's possible. They've done it before. But still, I'm not confident, especially the way they've played this year. It's just been way too inconsistent, and like I've said before, they fall into their worst tendencies.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about last week, dude. It's like they do this all the fucking time. I feel like it's a thing though in the NBA right now, right? Like didn't like Miami just knock out the Bucks? Like the Knicks, are they down to Miami as well?
The Knicks. Oh yeah, Miami's like up 3-1 or something like that. Yeah, Miami.
Yeah, isn't Miami like the 8th seed? What the fuck?
Yeah, no. Look, I said in the first round that if they hold on to this lead and win against the Bucks, that they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals, and sure enough, they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals.
The Knicks too, though. It's like what the fuck? They all of a sudden they're good or pretty good, and then they're just getting bounced by an 8th seed. Like weird.
The Knicks were kind of like a red herring. They had the 4th seed, but or 5th seed or whatever, but they weren't really that good of a team. They had good players who had good years, but other than that, they're just there's nothing special about them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And discuss the. And each what and fuck off.
I'm sorry. And then discuss each of their.
And then discuss each of. I'm all thrown off now. Okay, composure.